Yo, 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 it's Jay Wellz,
And Beasto here.
and this is Rag2Riches. We chose this name particular because the story of hip hop is a rag to riches story. And if you were to see what our podcast situation was like right now, you'd say, yeah, they're definitely in a rags to riches situation.
Just
But
without the riches.
without the riches, man. No riches. Wish there were some bitches, but no riches. I'm just fucking around. But kick it off real fast because we're gonna try to keep this really short. Today's topic is gonna be about top fives. So I want to talk about the specific conversation of the standard top five you always hear. So you already know what I'm gonna talk about when we talk about top five rappers. It's Jay, Big, Pac, Nas, and Big Pun. Those five are always mentioned because it is probably the most safe answer. If you could agree with that, right? It's probably the safest answer to
Yeah,
give.
whether you're a hip hop specialist or you're getting into the game or you just have an interest in hip hop, usually mentioning any or all of these names would give you a thumbs up from the people you're surrounded with. And while hip hop is somewhat subjective, as any art form is, for some reason these names are brought up because, they're established, they put in a lot of work,
Yep.
and, in part because of the old heads as well as the new kids, taking inspiration and elaborating off of that.
Yeah, and also a lot of times it's showing homage. Now my issue with it is a lot of times is people say in no particular order. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with just throwing it out there, but I think we could probably rate this in a better way, or at least with the legends. You know what I mean? If we were to go with all the rappers in the game, it would take way too long. But especially since it's something that everybody's gonna say, and this is the safe answer, I wanted to complicate it a little bit more by giving a specific order. So, me and my boy Beasto are gonna try to give you our top fives of the standard in a specific order of best to worst. So I'm gonna let my boy Beasto have the floor. What is your top five, sir?
I just want to say, Static, thanks for having me.
No
And
doubt.
shout
man,
out
no
to Val
doubt.
in the background, really loving all this stuff going on. So to get straight to the point, out of those five, I'm not really that great with giving ratings, and I'm gonna admit I do have my own biases. You'll find out soon enough, but I'm trying to be as fair as I can here. Starting with number five, I'm gonna have to go with Jay-Z. There's no doubt that he has a good amount of skill.
Yep.
He's very valid when it comes to spitting freestyles. When it comes to putting out a track or just doing it for fun, he can just pull off that magic out of nowhere. I'm saying number five, relative to the legends, because he did have a kind of falling out in the 2000s, between 2000 and
Yeah.
2010. There was a lot of pressure in the industry, so he did fall at least the most in terms of commercialization of the artistry. And in terms of personality, it's not the best. I know I shouldn't be judging on personality and attitude, but more on achievements, which he has done. But I should say that he's improved. He's making a lot of progress, especially if you heard 444. I've heard a couple tracks myself. The one that stuck out to me most was Story of OJ. I love the animation. I love the lyricism. I like the storytelling. I like the pride and solidarity he has,
Mm-hmm.
and how he turned the negative to a positive. It showed that he grew, that he matured, that he developed.
Yeah. I don't know why people expect him to be rapping about anything else at this age. I mean, he's damn near 49. You know what I mean? What else can he be rapping about? He's the OG trying to school the younger people on what they should be doing. He's kind of like the uncle of hip hop. You know what I mean? Even though he doesn't hold that title, he kind of is like the uncle just trying to school you on some game.
I mean, he's between the old heads and the new kids for me. Everybody's heard of him. So, of course, he's going to be an established name. He's not a businessman. He's a business man.
Exactly, and he's one of the biggest names in hip hop. I mean, there are 80-year-old people who can't name a single rapper, but I bet you they know Jay-Z and Beyonce.
That is true.
Yep.
That is true.
Okay, so what's your number four, man?
Going to number four, I'm going to have to go with Nas. He's been a very consistent dude with his storytelling, with the way he goes on about his work. just like Jay-Z, though, he did have a kind of falling out when he was more pressurized to be more commercialized. If you heard the song, hip hop is dead. It's kind of been a little bit back and forth between what hip hop was about, what was wrong with it, and then him just, kind of putting the fortune above, fame and fortune above the artistry. Not as wasn't as bad a fallout as what Jay-Z had.
Yeah, it wasn't as prevalent of a radio spin or radio success. He wasn't going for that as hard.
And like him or hate him, there's definitely more of a consistency with the demographic. Not to mention, no people don't really hate Nas. There's not a lot of people that would say, Nas is whack or like, he's just corporate straight out. They would say more with Jay-Z.
Everybody I hear has positive things to say about Nas, and I can imagine him being a really great dude just from the rapport he has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Number 3 for me, it's gonna have to be Biggie. Now, usually people shouldn't really focus more on quantity and focus more on quality. With Biggie's case, it's more of a gray area because he only had so much to work with. His passing and the potential he had, were it not to actually
that's the thing about Biggie. It's a really big what if, because there's so many avenues you can imagine him going. You could see him going straight conscious and trying to change the game with Tupac. You can see him trying to go the jazzier route if he went with Questlove. There's so many different places he could have taken.
Yeah, so I don't want to overly romanticize the ideal that what Biggie. No, I'm sorry. With what Biggie could have been, I want to try to judge.
We don't mess
more
with piggies
nerds.
around here. No cops.
Yeah, I would hope not.
No piggies.
Who am I, Kermit? All right.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
You know what I'm saying? And even though we're talking about the contributions he's made, at least in technical skill, the amount of work that was done, it's not as prevalent as maybe the previous artists. You do see that it was more of like that kind of 80s, 90s vibe where it was like not as much going on. Not to saying that there was nothing going on. On the contrary, a lot more than most rappers of his time. I'm just saying in comparison to these legends. Number 2, that's where I'm gonna have to put Big Pun on it for the amount of work that was done.
The Punisher.
The Big Punisher. Just the amount of quantity that was going on in his verses alone. His lines are just so complicated, just so intricate, and I'm gonna admit this.
He turned every simple rhyme into something multisyllabic. You know what I mean? Where he have like 4-syllable rhymes that are going on for like 5 or 6 straight bars. It's fucking ridiculous, man.
So we're talking about, lyrical contact, technical skill. I'm going to have to put Big Pun in there, no question. Even when he was with Terror Squad, Fat Joe being the leader, Big Pun just had such a presence. It was almost abnormal. He would be like the front man. It's really amazing. But as much as I like Big Pun, I'm going to have to put number 1 to Tupac. Not only did he have a good amount of lyrical content, a lot of technical skill, not as much as Big Pun in terms of quantity. And I'm going to admit my bias. I like Big Pun more than Tupac. I've heard more of his craft. I enjoy more of his content. And the fact that he's Spanish, he's in a minority in this.
Yeah, he definitely stamped Latino rap in the game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, he put that on the map. So, love, respect, represent.
Yes, sir. I feel you. All right. Mine, actually, before I get to mine, I didn't mean Latino rap. I meant Latino rappers, because there is no Latino rap unless you're actually spitting in Spanish.
Oh, yeah, like Spanish trap or like reggaeton, that usually comes out. Before you go, I just want to say, I want to say number 1 should be Tupac. I know I said I favor Big Pun more, but the contributions Tupac was making and how he tried to establish a community, solidarity with both East and West Coast rappers, try to make so much time to unify, even with his rival Biggie at the time, and the fact that he's so conscious and so aware, he tried to make a positive impact on the world in terms of, just like the amount of time, work, skill. I favor Big Pun more, but in terms of significance, yeah, I had to put Tupac in, even though I haven't heard as much from him.
I gotta respect it, man. So my top five, you went 5-1. I'm gonna go 1-5. It's just easier for me that way. Um, Number one for me is, on the contrary to you, is Jay-Z, because, like you said, he said, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman." He attacked the game from so many sides, and he was able to diversify himself. Also, he was able to tell a great story, apply wordplay, great delivery, and keep continuous good bodies of work. Now, where I disagree with you in the 2000s is, I don't think, well, he did have a push towards some radio success, but also there's things that you have to take into account of Kanye West. You know, he signed Kanye West and brought the resurgence of soul, which was appeared on the Blueprint and No ID and stuff like that. Just Blaze, a lot of these producers, even though producers, if we added all the producers that people work with, that's a whole nother conversation. But he kind of changed the sound every time he came out, whether that was signing someone that can help him become better, or listening to what was happening and then setting the next trend before it could even happen.
It's kind of like he would start the movement, whatever his decision would be.
Yeah,
and then people would just support it.
What is that prolific? I believe, to call something before it happens.
I think it's more prophetic.
Prophetic. There we go.
Referring to prophet.
There we go. So it was a lot. He was very prophetic in a way where he would set the trend before it would even happen, and then people would follow suit after that. My second one would be Nas. I'm going by lyrical skill. That's why, even though I want to put him at number one, I still got to put Jay-Z because he was better at business. But I fell in love with Nas after he said, "Rappers are monkey flipping with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician, inflicting composition of pain. I'm like Scarface, sniffing cocaine, holding the M16. See, with the pen, I'm extreme." Man, once I heard that, I kept studying his raps, looking up lyric sheets, trying to figure out how he came up with certain rhymes and who his producers were. And I think Illmatic alone, even if he didn't put out any more music, Illmatic alone deserved him that legendary spot. That it gave almost a panoramic view of Queensbridge. I've never been there, but one of the things I like about rappers in general, just not speaking about him specifically, is when they tell a story, it feels as though I'm in the place that they're talking about. You know what I mean? It feels as though I've been there. It feels as though I've...
Well, he's definitely a writer. The amount of imagery he puts up is just astonishing.
It gets me engulfed in the story. You know what I mean? It's like what Rakim said. He's like, he said this about Slick Rick, but I feel as though it applies to Nas. It's like, when he talks about the park, you can smell the grass. You can hear the children playing in the background. You hear the mama telling you got to run back upstairs because you got to eat. You know what I mean? It's so vivid in the way that he tells those stories. So there's Nas. Number three has got to be Notorious B.I.G. That was one, he has changed how people rap. He was one of the first favorite rapper, because everybody studied him and wanted to rap like him. And what made him specifically great was that he had on Ready to Die, even though he didn't have a lot of albums, on Ready to Die specifically, he was able to feed every audience. You know what I mean? He had the radio singles, he had Juicy, and he had Big Papa for the girls. Then he had the shit for the hardcore niggas. He had Who Shot Ya, Separate the Weak from the Obsolete, Hard to Creep them Brooklyn Streets. I'm sorry, I had to do that real quick, because I would just feel Biggie the most, you know what I mean? I was a fat boy growing up, you know what I mean? So I related the most. But he also had the songs for those who were in pain. He had Everyday Struggle, and he had different facets to himself that he was able to show. And I think that was also a part of Puff Daddy being being the one to bring him out of him, because you could be a great rapper, but it takes a great producer to do that as well.
So you have to have a good ear for it.
Yeah,
even so DJ Khaled had that remark.
Exactly. We will talk about producers at a later date, but because of that, I think it brought out the best of Biggie. So number 4, I gotta say Tupac. I hate it because I don't hate it, but I want to put Big Pun there because if it's lyrical skill, you can't beat Dead in the Middle of Little Italy. Little did he know we caught some middlemen who didn't do diddly. And I know I didn't even say that all the way completely right, but just that alone was fucking ridiculous.
He's saying that because I'm here, you know, another minority just being put on the bottom.
Hey, man. Hey, man.
This is discrimination.
Hey, man. But for really, though, I'm putting Tupac in this spot because he was the most culturally impactful of them all. He wasn't as lyrical as the others. That's why he's not higher than them. But he definitely deserves to be a part of that conversation. Now, like I said, he wasn't the most lyrical, but he had the most to say. What I mean by that is, if you listen to songs like Dear Mama, he talks about the struggle of his mother and how, you know, things weren't always right at home, but he always still kept that love for his mama. And it was almost like a letter to his mom. And every Mother's Day, I end up playing that for my mom, and it works. You know, pour her heart out. She's like, oh my god, oh my god. It got me out of some gifts, but cool. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll get back on it. But besides that, there's Brenda's Got a Baby, where he talks about teenage pregnancy. He talks about I forgot what the name of the story was. There was this one song where he was talking about a friend who he used to run the street with, but then he went into jail and he became a Muslim. You know what I mean? There were stories of consciousness, but it wasn't told in a you gotta be conscious sort of way, in a matter of fact, like, oh, this is what we have to be doing. He's like, no, this
more like a retrospective kind of way, just reevaluating his life.
Yeah, it's like looking back at what he did and realize it. Change. That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. Yeah. So he would look back and say, I need to change my ways, and he was looking forward in a positive way. He wasn't telling us what he needed to do, what we needed to do, but he would just lead by example. So I think he was one of the greatest leaders in hip hop, and that can never be taken away. All right, I'm sorry for all those who are dead in this situation. I forgot to say this. Rest in peace to Biggie, Tupac, and the last one I'm gonna bring up is Big Pun. Nobody on the planet has more multi-syllable rhymes than this dude. Nobody do it like me. I can't sing for shit, but god damn it. All right, I'm gonna try, right? That's all you can do, man. He was lyrical, but he also brought lyrics to the radio. He was able to give you songs like I'm Still Not a Player, but it was dope. It had bars, and it made sense, and people were able to rock out to it. They weren't worried. Well, they weren't complaining like, oh, it's too technical, I don't want to hear this type of shit. You know what I mean?
They weren't afraid to listen to it, and not to mention, it was good for the ladies.
Exactly. And it was good for the men who played it.
It was good for everybody.
It was a win-win situation for all parties. But because of that, he is one of the greatest, on top of what he did for Latin rappers, because he showed that Latin rapper not only can make it, but it's possible to find gems outside of the norm. You know what I mean? You don't have to be black and from the hood or whatever. Even though he was from the streets and he was living that life, it wasn't the usual. You know what I mean? He was kind of the first, like, out of the typical norm rapper, which also opened the door, I do believe, for rappers not just out of that norm, but out of that type of genre. For example, if you look at Tyler the Creator, like, he's dope, but he's not the typical rapper in terms of the story that people usually tell and the type of content that he tells. Even though he's more Eminem, under the tutelage, what it did. Yeah, it brought even though he's under the tutelage of Eminem, he took it to his own far left, and it was acceptable. You know what I mean? He was the first one to kind of push boundaries. You know what I mean? So on top of that, that's one of the reasons why he's legendary, because he was one of the first people to push that boundary. But he wasn't, and we can kind of finish off with this conversation on Spanish rap. We can, he wasn't the only Spanish rapper at that time. I mean, we did have our Fat Joes, and our Noriegas. Do you know who a Noriega is?
I've heard of one or two tracks every once in a while.
All right, I'm gonna show you Noriega later because he's not talked about enough. You know what I mean? I'll definitely say that. Because he's black and Puerto Rican, and he actually made a crossover record where he's like, Boricua Morena. It's kind of
yeah, Dominicana. Oh, I do love that song so much.
Yeah, that's him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I told you it's been a while since I heard about him.
And even if we take it all the way back, there's a Kid Frost. Kid Frost in the 80s. I believe it was the 80s. I forgot where I heard. Oh, I know where I heard him. I don't know why my mom bought it, but my Snoop put out these CDs where I guess they were like playlists of rappers from his era. So there was people like, I don't know if you heard of her, Lady of Rage.
No, I haven't heard.
Oh, you gotta hear her. She's fucking dope. He was like, I rock rough and stuff with my Afro puffs. And then you just hear Snoop in back like, oh, go ahead with your bad self. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, Snoop. Yeah, say that shit. And then Lady of Rage was fucking dope. But then there was Kid Frost. And he was like, what's his song? This is La Raza.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck that means, but I was saying that shit for mad long, man.
It's basically like, this is the race.
The race.
Que viva la raza. Long live the race.
I got you. But yeah, he was one of the first Spanish rappers to start in the game. But definitely Big Pun and Fat Joe, that duo brought Latin rap to its kind of peak and showed that it can be done on a global scale. You know what I mean?
And in English. No.
And in English. And in English. Yes, sir. All right, man. Is there... Oh, honorable mentions.
Ooh, fun.
All right. Now, bringing it back to Snoop, I believe that he is far too often left out of these conversations. And it frustrates me because he has timeless records. He has great bodies of work. His flow is pretty much unmatched in terms of the way that he speaks and the way that he gives it off.
Only Snoop can deliver Snoop.
Exactly, man. Nobody can sound like Snoop. And if you try to sound like Snoop, niggas know. It's obvious. You know what I'm saying? He was... And think about how he diversified himself. You remember Sensual Seduction?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. Sensual Seduction was a fucking smash too. It wasn't just like some like one-off, oh yeah, let me try this for a minute and it failed. Nah, yo, that shit sailed, bro. That shit was on the radio like 24/7 when that shit came out, man. And he also he's one of those names that is the biggest name in hip hop. You know what I mean? The names that those 80-year-old white women I was talking about, they know Jay-Z and they know Snoop Dogg. You know what I mean? And they let Snoop has the most respect in the game out of anybody. You know what I mean? And you can tell because everywhere he goes, no matter where he goes, they let him smoke there.
That is true.
Think about it. Even if they don't let him, if he's on TV, they don't let him smoke on camera. But best believe he blowing it down in the trailer or in the room or whatever they have him stashed at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the amount of respect that guy has.
Yeah,
and you don't hear too bad about Snoop.
Yeah, nobody has a bad thing to say about Snoop, man. Actually, no, there was somebody who had something bad to say about Snoop. It was there was a
but they hate
video of some gangbangers from LA. They were like, oh, well, Snoop's not doing this and Snoop's not doing that. And I liked it because Snoop addressed them so fucking gangster. He's like, bro, I'm way past this. I don't need y'all niggas. I put on for my city. Fuck y'all. And then went off. And I was like, well, he said it a lot smoother than I ever could. But like, if you would have heard that nigga, you'd be like, oh shit, my nigga Snoop. Yo, he on one, bro. But yeah, that's the thing is like, nobody can say anything about Snoop. And if you say something bad, you're just a hater. You're sipping on that haterade. Red flavor.
They thirsty for that haterade, I'll tell you that.
For real, dog.
For me, you know, if we're talking about honorable mentions, you know, I like to go a little bit out on the mainstream simply because, you know, everybody usually talks about mainstream. Everybody hears more recognizable names. And while I don't go too deep underground, I just want to stray away from it to get different perspectives and different kinds of works going in, different topics. and I became interested in rap and hip hop as more of an investment than just a hobby. All thanks to this person. I gotta put Tech Nine in, no question. His fans, his technicians can back me up on this.
What's the name of his fan base?
Technicians.
Yo, just the name sounds hard, bro.
And I mean, his name itself came from a gun, a submachine gun that's shoots really fast. And if you've seen that gun, you'd understand why he's called Tech Nine. Yep. I became more invested in when I heard, freaking, what was it? Follow me on the panic, the renegade, the card, you can never manage to do the original party, pick up on the panic, get the manic, because I gotta be frantic, got my jammer, because I'm an oddity. I was just like, I lost my mind because of the amount of diversification just from, at least 2 other rappers speaking in 2 different languages. I think one from Denmark and then one from Turkey. And on top of that, they had Busta Rhymes in it. They had, man. And they even had people like Busta Bus, like more mainstream stuff. Yeah. And then not to mention they had underground people like Twisted Insane, who is insane. Simple as that. And not to mention he's worked with artists from different genres. Like the amount of work he's done. He's worked with people from Five Finger Death Punch and freaking Slipknot. I don't even know where he's worked with other mainstream artists like Lil Wayne and Kendrick Lamar. He's also been helping other artists come in. He's made his own independent label. It's one of the more famous ones, Strange. The logo is just very powerful. And the range of topics from, partying in the club to, his not like apostasy, but more of doubt and faith. His love for his mother who passed a few years back, oh my, it's nuts the amount of things this guy's done. It's just he's been, for lack of a better word, he's been persecuted more than most, underground or lesser known rappers, all because of Angelic and the fact that he at times wears paint on his face. People assume that he was a devil worshiper and that he can only just rap fast. When the amount of lyrical content and the topics he's put up is second to none.
That is so true. We skip over a lot of the bars that he's saying because a lot of times when you're rapping that fast, you're not even thinking about bars. You're just trying to keep up with the words that are being said. You're not even trying to think of the punchlines that are coming in between. But if you printed out a lyric sheet and read what this dude was saying, man, it'd be the dopest shit you ever. He says the dopest shit that just be flying over my head like a fucking spaceship, bro. I swear to God. I think my favorite thing about him is it's almost kind of like my favorite thing is Sinatra. Sinatra specifically was like, he was the first one to realize that you should manipulate your voice to sound like an instrument. You know what I mean? Frank Sinatra to me sounds like a saxophone, right? When he sings, he's like New York, New York. The way that he accentuates certain words in the
New York.
There we go. See, I need a real sing up in the motherfucking place. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, going on that, when I listen to Tech Nine, he reminds me of like a marching band snare drum. You know what I mean?
Oh, if he does a drum roll.
Yeah, exactly, man. Or he's just like stuck on or when he does the triplets, like he sounds like some like banging ass triplets, and he can do the accents perfectly. You know what I mean?
Oh, the articulation, the enunciation is just oh
exactly, God. Man. He's got a certain je ne sais quoi when you talk about that shit, man.
Say yes, man.
Yes, sir. So, go. What else I was gonna say? I think that's pretty much it I got on Tech Nine. Is there anything else you want to bring up on your boy?
Listen to him. That's all I have to say.
Okay. You have one album you can recommend to somebody from him. Who would you recommend?
Special Effects.
Special Effects?
Special Effects.
All right, you heard it first from here, man. If you need to listen to anything from Snoop, I would say you have to listen to Blue Carpet Treatment. Mind you, it is very gang oriented. Yes, it is, but I think if you want to really know who Snoop is, all the facets of Snoop, you need to listen to that album. That is, I believe, one of his best. It's that and then Doggy Style. Of course, you can't leave Doggy Style out the conversation, man.
You can't leave Doggy Style out of anything, really.
Say, what's my motherfucking name? Snoop Dogg and Dog.
Oh, I'm still a kid, man. I'm telling you.
I swear to God, that brings me back in the day, man, when I was just chilling in my room, just listening to rap, man. But I'm getting the. Wait, are we? Is it time to wrap up? All right, man. So this is Rags2Riches. I first want to thank you for listening to us and giving us your ear. Thanks for listening to us. I hope you liked some of the opinions. If you disagree with our opinions, well, you can comment on wherever the fuck we're gonna put this. I'm open to debate, y'all. Come at it, nigga. I dare you, cause I will come back.
I would just like to have a simple discussion. So if
if
you guys are just gonna tell us to go kill ourselves, then all right, just do that. I guess.
I mean, sure, but probably won't actually do what y'all want.
And if we actually do it, I'm not sure if
shit
the
on
cops
you,
will do
man. On you. It's on you, bro.
Oh, dark humor. I love you.
All right, man. Thank you, and good night.